Another year, another gift guide, but without all the expensive sponsored crap you'll see everywhere else. Gather round for legitimately cool gadgets. Some you probably haven't heard of. Many of my favorites, and some of yours too. Oh, and save for one product, none of these are sponsored. I hate the multi-monitor lifestyle, but I do find myself wanting to place a static window on a smaller display. With the hilariously named Clumsy K3, now I can. This thing is an RGB mechanical keyboard, laptop I/O hub, SSD enclosure, and 13-inch touchscreen all in one. Supply it power, data, and video from your laptop or your desktop, and you're off to the races. You've got access to fairly bandwidth limited, but still capable 5 gigabits per second throughput for other USB devices, SD cards, and even an M.2 sized SSD. The keyboard is actually really nice with surprisingly fancy double shot PBT caps and less fancy generic yellow MX style switches, but these switches are solderless, so you can use the included tool to pop them right out and substitute in your own preferred combo. Neato. Now the screen is 1920 by 720 and has a luminance of 300 nits. It's not fantastic. Viewing angles are less than superb, but when angled correctly, it does look better than the specs might suggest. And having the ability to use it at any angle, well, it's locked, I'm gonna stop touching that. Any angle makes it the perfect 10-point multi-touch sketchpad for Windows, a suitable social feed for macOS, and even a CyberDeck console for Raspberry Pi. All of us carry around a flashlight with us every day, but a smartphone is a pretty lousy one. This is the Aurora A8. It is a teeny tiny LED flashlight that brightens to an insane 650 lumens. Don't know how bright that is? Well, here's an iPhone 15 Pro, and here's this flashlight. Yeah. Not only does this single button toggle through brightness settings on the main LED, but it also, on the side, has a UV light to inspect currency and sketchy hotel rooms. It has a red light too, great for use when dark without losing your night vision. It can even flash if you have it attached to your backpack to alert cars or other vehicles of your presence. And it also has just a regular, nice, warm colored floodlight to illuminate an area like a tent. It runs for hours on its internal battery, charges via USB-C, and comes with a clip, keyring, and magnetic base to attach it to basically anything. It's amazing. If you're a 90s kid that grew up on Bop-It, like I did, then you will love Flip Slide. It's this cheap little puzzle game that has you flip and slide colored tiles to match those displayed on screen. Now, what sounds simple gets really intense with a variety of game modes to choose from. There's a Simon Says style mode, there's a level mode which gets increasingly more difficult as time progresses, and there's even a multiplayer mode that had my wife and I laughing hysterically. It's perfect to play alone or with friends, and priced the way it is, it's impossible to say no to. You should also get the Dyad Pro and S8 Pro Ultra from today's sponsor, Roborock. Now, you may recall Roborock sponsored last year's gift guide. I personally sought them out this year to sponsor again because I love their products so much. The Dyad Pro is a cordless wet-dry vacuum that handles basically anything you can throw at it. There's multiple brush rollers underneath the device to wet and scrub your floor free of sticky, stainy grime, and you can do it within 1 millimeter of walls. The powerful 17,000 Pascal motor sucks up all of the waste that the brush rollers create, both wet and dry, and there's an onboard DirtTech smart sensor that analyzes the grime concentration on those rollers and adjusts water flow and suction accordingly to handle all tasks. Now, most wet-dry vacs are more hassle than they're worth, but not the Dyad Pro, because upon returning it to its dock, not only does it charge, but it self-cleans and hot air dries, making the entire system ready day after day, week after week. And there's even an onboard cleaning concentrate dispenser for scrubbing with surfactants, so you really only have to add clean water and empty the dirty tank when you feel like it. And the only thing that's better than a gadget that lessens work is one that removes it entirely. That's where the Roborock S8 Pro Ultra comes in. This vacuum does an exceptional job at its primary job, which is picking up debris, thanks to its dual roller brush design and class-leading 6,000 Pascal suction. Now, this thing will get hair, crumbs, food, and more from both hardwood and carpet, but when the latter is detected, suction is boosted and the mop is raised so as not to touch rug and carpet fibers. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention this thing mops too, with its Viberized system that scrubs the floor pretty aggressively, removing a surprising amount of floor grime. Now when all is said and done, when it's finished with its tasks, it returns to its all-in-one dock that empties the dustbin, washes the mop pads, hot air dries said pads and the station to avoid mildew, refills the onboard water tank, and charges the bot for its next journey. It's a great vacuum and mop, but the reason I have continued to use Roborock vacuums exclusively on the main floor of my home over the past 4 years is the excellent class-leading app and navigation system. Not only is it easy to issue commands and set schedules, but most importantly, my S8 Pro Ultra has vacuumed for nearly 200 hours since I got it earlier this year. And in the past month, it hasn't failed a route even once. It almost never gets stuck, avoiding any obstacles placed before it. It requires essentially zero maintenance, and it keeps my floor clean for weeks before I even have to think of lifting a finger. It's seriously one of the best tech gadgets I've ever owned, period. I love it, and I know that you will too. Be sure to check out the S8 Pro Ultra and Dyad Pro while their Black Friday deals are ongoing using the links below. ISDT is a brand known to basically anyone that pilots drones or RC cars, as they make some of the best lithium polymer battery chargers on the market. But what I didn't know until recently is that they make an absolute chungus 200-watt USB charger. This thing has 3 Type-C PD ports that can deliver 65, 65, and a highly unusual but amazing 140 watts, maxing out even the 16-inch M3 Max MacBook Pro under full load while fast charging. Furthermore, the lone USB-A port supports up to 24 watts of output with support for all protocols like Qualcomm Quick Charge. A handsome LCD display reads out the wattage being pushed to each device, including the wireless charging pad, which uses an MFI-certified MagSafe plug that pushes the full 15 watts of wireless power that the iPhone is capable of. Given that making chargers is literally ISDT's bread and butter, I was unsurprised but pleased to see active cooling and overheat protection triggers in place. There's even an app if you want such a thing, and it comes with 2 high-quality 240-watt capable Type-C cables in the box. I think for the price they're asking and everything that it offers, it's a steal. Wired headphones are back in amongst the youth, at least so I hear. And the Quest-Style M15 is a must-have hi-fi accessory for any wired headphones listener. It is a USB-C powered DAC and headphone amp that is in an insanely tiny package. Now, in years past, this small size would have suggested lousy amplification capabilities, but no, this thing is nuts. It can power my super inefficient Odyssey LCD3 planar magnetic headphones just as well as larger headphone amps I've seen in the sub $300 price range. Sound quality on this thing is fantastic. There is an insanely low noise floor to boot. It works with iOS and macOS, supports lossless audio, and of course, it's just awesomely tiny. This thing is sweet. Speaking of tiny things, onto a tiny thing that my wife loves. This micro ratchet wrench, and I love it too. This thing is just 2 inches long, like my pinky. My pig is actually a little bigger, you know what they say. Any 1/4-inch bit slips inside this ratcheted end, and you can ratchet in both left and right directions. It's so small that you can basically use this ratchet as a screwdriver. But in instances where you don't have the perimeter clearance you're looking for, well, you just stick the 1/4-inch bit in the opposite end, and now you've got a little stubby screwdriver. I've been keeping this thing with some bits in an Altoid tin in my backpack, and it is fabulously handy. It's a little expensive, but super worth it. I don't like things on my phone, so when Moff's tripod stand was suggested to me by Joel, I knew I'd hate it. Well, folks, I knew wrong. This thing is sweet. It snaps onto the back of your phone with MagSafe and unfolds in a cascading origami structure. You can set it up in a variety of different ways. So it's useful for vlogging, for video calls when using continuity camera. It's awesome for watching movies or reading messages. It's great as a tripod for group photos and a whole lot more. It's way light and thinner than you would think given its capabilities, and I love it, even if the price is a bit tough to swallow. Last year I mentioned OmniFixo, the perfect helping hands companion for soldering. Many asked what iron I would recommend for those new to soldering, but I didn't really have an answer, at least not until I ordered a PineSill earlier this year. This $26 soldering iron is incredible and punches way above its price tag. For starters, it's entirely open source and runs a RISC-V CPU. Now, why on earth would you need this? Well, it gives you precise temperature control on the OLED display between 100 and 450 degrees Celsius, and it can reach said temperature in just 6 seconds. An automatic standby mode enters as soon as the onboard accelerator stops detecting motion, which is really safe and handy. And you can use Pinecil's shorty tips, or really any standard size TS100 tip, to get more precision, dependent on your soldering application. This isn't just one size fits all tip. You can put anything you want on there. And while you've seen me using it thus far with a DC barrel jack, the Pinecil even supports USB-C PD. It's freaking awesome. This thing is amazing, and it blows the door off of any other sub $75 soldering iron for literally 26 bucks. Buying one is basically legal theft. You know, not every gift has to be new. And if you're running a Mac without a versioned or restorable backup, shame on you. Especially since you can get an old Apple time capsule on eBay for less than 30 bucks. I got mine for $20 with a dead hard drive inside, and I was able to easily swap out that cheapo stock drive with a 2 terabyte SATA SSD that I bought on Amazon for $70. It is amazing how cheap SSDs have become. Now, the time capsule, when it was released, acted as a router and Wi-Fi access point, but I don't want either of those things enabled because this is old. I have more modern networking equipment. So, to make this just a NAS, we're going to use an Ethernet cable from our router or switch and plug it into the WAN port on the time capsule. Then, we open up Airport Utility on our Mac or iPhone, we select our time capsule, and we go to the Wireless tab where we just shut that off. No more Wi-Fi. Then we go into the Network tab and we also turn that off, or into bridge mode, so that it doesn't try to create its own subnet and give us double NAT issues, yada yada. Once set up, we can actually use the time capsule as a passive switch for other devices, but more importantly, we can now use Time Machine and have all Macs on our network create versioned backups to this device. We can even use it as a shared file or media server. I bought this thing for this video, I gotta admit, but I'm taking it home. I mean, a 2 terabyte all-flash NAS server for less than $100? How could I say no to that? It's freaking sweet. Megan, my wife, is a lot better with a kitchen knife than I am, so she naturally hates single-use kitchen gadgets. And when she saw that I got a Dream Farm Garject, she rolled her eyes. But then I used it, and she said, and I quote, "Okay, that's actually really sick." You take a garlic clove, or multiple, papery peels and all, and load them into the Garject. Then you close the handle and see the garlic press through the holes with ease to a minced consistency. Now, up till this point, that's just like a regular garlic press. But now watch. Upon opening the handles back up, the built-in scraper flicks all of that gooey garlic directly into your dish, and then hitting the eject button removes the paper from the press, and you can just instantly load it into your dishwasher. It is a brilliantly quick way to get through the stickiest, stinkiest part of your meal prep. Trust in Germans to over-engineer the simplest hand tool ever made, the screwdriver. With the Kraftform Turbo, in its standard state, it is just a screwdriver with a really sloppy shaft, but press the button at the back of the screwdriver and you'll enable Turbo Mode, a purely mechanical gear train that turns one rotation of the hand into 4 rotations of the shank. Now you can do this two-handed or single-handed, but the end result is a lot less twisting while screws get in and out a lot faster. Now, this isn't usable in every scenario, but personally, I find it a lot more effective than a ratcheting driver when I've got a lot of screws to burn through. But it doesn't have a lot of torque, so for tightening or loosening past a few pound-feet, you will want to push the button at the back of the driver to re-enable standard driver mode. It is absurdly unnecessary. And I love it. I travel light, and while I love those little tiny 30-watt bricks that exist nowadays with the just prongs sticking out, they scratch the heck out of everything in my bag. So I have now defaulted to Nomad's slim lineup of gallium nitride chargers. They've got a single-port 35-watt and a 2-port 65-watt model. They're both tiny and lightweight, but more importantly, they're flat. Not only does this help avoid the scratchy and the baggy, but it also pushes the weight of the charger inwards so it doesn't droop or fall out from loose, worn, old hotel outlets, a common problem with heavier wattage chargers. I've owned my Playdate for a year and a half, but they're now just finally getting through their pre-order shipments. So we're now almost to the point where you can buy one and actually get it soon. If you don't know what Playdate is, it is a cute little tiny baby itty bitty yellow game console with a 1-bit transflective LCD. There's no backlight here, so it's best when viewed in the sun. I've never owned a 1-bit display before, but I love it because seeing the art style choices required to create the perception of white and black when you literally only have fully black pixels is super beautiful. In addition to USB-C, onboard Wi-Fi, a rather decent speaker, and of course face buttons, it has a crank. Which is silly, but a fun mechanic in several of the games that use it. So here's the thing. Playdate is very expensive at $199. Now, much of that goes towards the software because it does include 24 games that are unlocked once per week, every week, for 12 weeks when you get your Playdate. And nearly all of the games are built by famous developers. Many of the games are amazing. A few of them are just fine, some are long, and several are pretty short. But even taking into account the included games library, $200 is still nuts. I mean, for this thing. Look at this. My brain and wallet commands me to hate it, but I can't. It is absolutely whimsical. The games are innovative, and it's superb for quick 3-minute game sessions. It's so tiny that you can just take it with you everywhere. You put it in your pocket, and the community behind it is passionate. There is now an enormous catalog of really great additional games that have been released for cheap and oftentimes free through both the Playdate catalog store and itch.io. It's the antithesis of cutting edge to the point of being obnoxiously hipster. But I don't care. It's so much fun. I adore it, and I still play it even 2 years later. It's not the gimmick I thought it might be. It truly is awesome. I love my Fluke 115 multimeter. It saved me from getting electrocuted a bunch of times. But for $225, it doesn't really do that much. The Australian-developed Bop-It Pro, on the other hand, very much does. It is a tiny little multimeter pen that uses a smartphone display as a screen. And if that sounds dumb to you, I agree. But here's the thing. It's not just a multimeter. It's also an oscilloscope and data logger. And this isn't just a dumb bum oscilloscope either. You can use functions to check frequency, RMS, period, average, duty, and more. You can even establish triggers to choose how and when a signal is captured. Additionally, with wireless multi-channel support through a single app, you're off to the races for multi-probe support, and the built-in data logger is sweet. You can take electrical or even temperature measurements using the onboard thermistor or an external NTC temperature probe over an extended period of time, up to 6 months, and all of the data is logged on device and synced to your mobile app, well, just at a later date, whenever you reconnect. You can now even set up range testing wherein you can establish measurement thresholds to quickly and easily identify passing specs by LED color and or buzzer without needing to use a phone or display at all. If a Bop-It Pro is a bit too pricey for you, they offer a smaller Bop-It meter that offers pretty much most of the same features for less than $100. Now, I don't think anything in this price range comes even close in feature set or size, and it more than makes up for having to awkwardly use a phone to see the data. If your significant other came to you and said, "Hey baby, I just bought a 9-inch Unicorn Magnum Plus," what would you believe that to be? If you guessed a pepper mill, wow, you're really weird, but also correct. The market is being flooded with nonsense $150 salt and pepper mills made from machined aluminium, and let me tell you what, they suck compared to this ugly plastic USA-made treasure. Compare the Magnum to my cheap but dependable OXO radial grinder or bougie coal and mason mill, and well, you'll see that this thing just disgraces their very existence. The Magnum can crack out a teaspoon of pepper with just 6 rotations. It makes so much pepper that it almost makes too much pepper. There isn't much in the way of fine granular control, but it doesn't matter because you can't expect to tame a 9-inch hog. The Magnum sprays its love everywhere, and you would be lucky to own one. Seriously, they're almost sold out all the time. So add it to your wish list. On the opposite end of the spectrum, when I first saw the Knipex Cobra extra small pliers, I thought they were joke pliers. Like, seriously, these are tiny. What on earth could they actually be useful for? Dude, so many things. Despite being a mere 4 inches in length, there are 11 adjustment positions that open past 1 1/8 inch, or 28 millimeters if you're scared of fractions and freedom. Now, the shorter handles don't give you insane leverage, but you get more than you need for most applications, and the crazy number of adjustment positions, in addition to the long tip jaw length, means that these can often pull double duty as an adjustable wrench. Now, while you lack cutters, the pipe grips are sharp as all get out and bite into just about anything. These are German, and we... That was the worst German accent ever done. I apologize for the stereotype. There's many Germans that watch this channel. You guys are amazing. Dankeschön. They don't mess around though, and these are the perfect gift because it's something that's just pricey enough you probably wouldn't buy it on your own volition, but something that if received as a gift, you would use all the time. At $30, these weirder little pliers are that. End of story. And end of video. If you enjoyed this, please do give it a like. If you want to pick something up, using the links in the video description below sends a small affiliate kickback to Snazzy Labs. We appreciate it, if you don't mind. But if you do mind, and you don't want to, that's okay. Just Google the product name instead. I'm grateful we were able to spend this time together to talk about Christmas cheer, and I'd love to know what you intend to pick up in the comments down below. But most importantly, and as always, I'm so thirsty. Stay snazzy.